Hi there, we have Lisa and Andrea from Edgewood. I wanted to ask just a question about how does an employer look for signs of what a employee goes through if they have a substance abuse or some kind of addiction?
I think that the employer actually is the one that probably sees the most, even more so than the families. But it may not look the same. I think a lot of times in the workplace, what it looks like is, absenteeism. Sometimes it shows up in performance, job performance. Sometimes it shows up in productivity. It shows up in relationships with other employees. And typically, it's not, it's progressive. So you would notice a change in the person that you're dealing with from when they started to where they're at. And I think employers make a lot of excuses because the person wasn't like that before. So they'll come up with all kinds of other reasons that that person might be that way and not realize that it could be addiction.
Okay, and then now what? Now that I've seen that, what do I do about that?
Well, that's where it gets tricky because sometimes there's friendships and people don't want to rat out their friend, even if they are the supervisor. I think a conversation about what's going on is really great. I think having a really good understanding of your alcohol and drug policy and what to do if someone self-discloses as opposed to something happening in the workplace is important for an employer too, and to have one is important. And then I think based on that conversation, you decide how you're going to proceed. I think sometimes the employee, most times, is probably going to say that it's something other than that.
Hmm.
And it's a tough place for an employer to be because you can't focus on addiction. You can only focus on performance.
That's right. It's interesting, you just said something there, and if I was to go to a person and talk about their performance or I can sense something, I wouldn't want to be the employer that always goes to it's an abuse issue. It may be something else that you can't even relate to. How do you differentiate whether it's a substance abuse or they're going through depression, for example?
Well, you don't. I mean, you have the conversation and then you would most probably refer them to your EAP and
Okay.
hope that they can get some support through there. If they self-disclose that they have an issue, then they may get referred on to a substance abuse professional or an addiction doctor or something like that so they can be properly assessed and then placed into the proper level of treatment.
Okay.
But it
So
really does depend on how that conversation goes.
excellent. Lisa and Andrea, do you guys have the tools to help a company once they diagnose or once they see a sense of something that's happening? Can you guys step in at that point, or do they still have to go to some other avenues before they come and see you guys?
We definitely can do everything from very first consultation, assessment, proper treatment placement, aftercare, recovery monitoring, relapse prevention. I mean, we can start the relationship right after that first initial conversation all the way up until the employee going back to work. I mean, we have
Excellent.
ways to support the employer and the employee.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.